one of our major focuses is our mission statement, and to have everybody on the same page working for a common goal is huge, and it involves the people in the shop. It gives them the ability to make decisions because they know if it falls within our core values, they can make that decision and run with it.
Welcome to Boys Under the Hood. Pat Kelly joined by James Stevenson, owner of Lotus Media Solutions. Two very special guests today from Green Bay, Wisconsin, and Downtown Auto. It's Aaron and Steph. What's going on in Wisconsin today?
Not much.
Nice and rainy.
The wet one.
Thanks for having us.
It's a real pleasure to have you guys on.
Thank
So
you.
this is the first podcast episode, Pat, out of like the hundreds that we've done that is over a Zoom.
Yeah, which is always unusual to me because I know this is kind of face-to-face, but the Zoom, not quite as personal, right? You can't hit the guy under the table when you're talking like that.
Yeah.
Next time we'll just have to fly up.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. So Aaron and Steph were clients of mine for 3 years, over 3 years, and I've never actually met them in person. I've only met them over Zoom, and eventually I'm going to get out there. I know.
We need to change that.
I know we do. We got to get out there for a football game or go to the lake or something. But so you guys own an incredible business right in the heart of Wisconsin, or sorry, right in the heart of Green Bay, Wisconsin. And so your shop, you have an incredible shop. You guys are always busy. Such a tremendous culture that you've built there. But it wasn't always that way. And so today what I want to do is kind of talk a little bit about your history and kind of like how you got into the industry, and then how you guys both are working together in this business, because, husband and wife partnerships don't always work in business. And then you work together and you go home together and nobody has strangled the other one. And so, I want to kind of just get everybody to learn a little bit more about you guys and your story, and just learn a little bit more about who you guys are. And so, without wasting any more time, Aaron, like, how did you become an automotive technician? Because you're such a tremendous one.
Well, thank you for those kind words. But I ended up being a technician because I bought a car that was broken when I was 15 years old. So I didn't save anything prior, and I realized that the only way that I was going to be able to drive was if I fixed my own car. So got into the industry, went to school for it, came out, worked in a dealership for 8 years. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, the technician side of things back then, and just got a little bit bored with it and moved on to other things.
Different world working in a dealership than it is an independent too, like diametrically opposed businesses.
Yeah, it was definitely kind of a cutthroat atmosphere. Nobody wanted to share secrets. Nobody really wanted to help another guy. It wasn't a good culture.
Yeah. So from your years at the dealership, how did you transition into your own shop, Aaron?
So I went from working on cars to being a service advisor, and then I realized in a hurry that 8 months of service advising was too much for me. Ended up getting out of the service advising industry and went into financial advising, actually. But so I went far away for a very short period of time, 2 years in the financial advising industry, and had an opportunity to work at a shop that I ran myself. Was going well, hired a technician.
The owner wasn't great though, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that kind of really tripped, changed his thought process on the automotive industry in general. It was basically at that point that went south, and it was, do you get out of it completely, or do we find our own place? Is basically where it went. And he's too talented of a tech at that point that we're like, you got to stay in it. So we were starting to look for places to lease and actually open our own shop. And then
like a random phone call at 7:00 one night from some guy named Dave Shaw asking me to come work for him. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not looking for a technician position. My wife and I are actually looking to purchase a place. And he goes, really? Well, then we really got to talk. So it was interesting. So I went down the next day, talked to him about it. And that day we actually came up with agreement and terms. And 2 years later, we purchased the shop from him.
So it was just a very interesting way of, going about it. It was kind of a meant to be thing. It was really neat.
And Steph, you have no automotive experience prior to this too. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about your history prior to being a business owner as well?
Yeah, I didn't think I'd be here at this point in my life, that's for sure. No, I'm an RN by trade. So I worked in in a local hospital for about 18 years in an ICU. And when we purchased, I was like, I'll just do the books. I'm the type A, I'm the numbers person. So I'm like, I'll help with the books. And then over time, it just transitioned into I can help with other things. And it's really incredible the things that you take away from a hospital system that has policies and procedures, and then realizing how much that's necessary in the automotive world too, especially in your own business. So I kind of slowly transitioned and then left the hospital system, and now I'm there full time.
And so to kind of back up a little bit, right? So I first met you guys at the beginning of your business ownership venture. And so unlike a lot of other business owners that I meet, or other businesses that I acquire or anything, they usually will go through this period of pain trying to figure it out themselves and trying to learn it all. And so you met Dave, and you went right in and you bought this business, and then you contacted, you ultimately got in contact with me and started coaching right away. And so why did you do that? Why didn't you just try to start it on your own and go down that road?
I think between the two of us, we realized that we didn't know everything about what we were doing, and being able to come to the realization and say, there's got to be somebody who can help us with making sure we're doing the right thing, because neither one of us have ever set up margins or looked at gross profit or any of those things that are business related and that are very necessary. And my mindset was, cars come in, we fix cars go out. If the customer's happy, we're happy.
There's so much to it, so much more to it. Exactly. How naive we were.
Yeah. And so you guys have two young children as well. And so when you started the company, I guess speak to a little bit about like what you were going through. I know, Aaron, you were working 1 million hours, and you felt like you were on the treadmill. And Steph, you were still working actively in the hospital. And and Aaron was realizing some of these struggles that a lot of business owners have, where he wasn't making what he wanted to make, especially for the amount of hours and intellectual property and time and everything that he was putting into it. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, definitely. We knew there was a better way, for sure, but we didn't know how to get there. And I think we were smart enough to realize that we needed help. And when we realized there was coaching programs, and thankfully we got hooked up with you really, really early on.
Within 6 months of opening.
Yeah, we were able to get, and then we just surpassed everything that we thought we would be able to do in that same amount of time, which was really incredible. I mean, I can't, and of course, plug for coaching, but I can't speak enough about coaching. I mean, really, we wouldn't be here if it wouldn't have been working with you for, 3+ years, 3.5 years, probably.
Yeah, we would have.
We would have, like you said, the pain points, we would have learned the hard way with a lot of things. And unfortunately, probably we have a lot of people to take care of, with our employees, and that's a huge responsibility. And we wanted to make sure we were doing right for them too, since we were bringing them along for the ride.
So what was the moment where you took that turn and thought, man, maybe we should turn to someone who can help us? Was there one thing? Was it a culmination of things?
It was interesting, because we got a phone call actually from a coaching company, and James, and the process that they walked you through to get into the coaching side of things is really what hooked us. So like the vetting process, basically, because we had to qualify as a shop to be part of the coaching program. And
I think it was a lot of, Aaron was never home. We had little kids. They, obviously it was a lot for me to be working full time plus helping. He's gone literally all the time, like life, right? Just trying to handle, the home stuff. And I'm like, we knew there needed to be a better way. Otherwise people wouldn't own a business. So I think it was more time that's what was really the biggest the biggest thing that we reached out for assistance with, for sure, just to kind of get a handle on things a little bit better.
So I remember when I was setting up all of our coaching programs, they all start with, an initial call. And sometimes those calls are an hour, sometimes they're 4 hours, literally, and so what we're doing is we're deep diving into everything, whether it be personal and professional, because who we are determines, what we ultimately end up becoming in business. And so that's the point of the vetting process. And why it's so significant, because there's so much time, on their part and so much time on our part. And we always want to ensure success. And part of the problem in business sometimes is that everybody in business that is in business, not all of them really should be in business, and so we want to make sure that we always partner with people that are really just the right fit, and they're gonna work really, really hard. And you guys came out strong right out of the gate. And so that wasn't without some challenges and some hiccups. And, and as you begin to start in this coaching program, you get structure. And as you get structure, this new structure is a change from what the prior structure or lack of structure was. And so as that happened, you guys ran into some speed bumps there in terms of like staff and resistance to change and everything. And so, I was hoping maybe you could speak to that as well, because through the years, you guys have done an incredible job staffing and creating this incredible culture around you. And we'll get to that in a minute, but, maybe speak just a little bit to that, if you could.
Yeah. The culture that we purchased when we purchased the building or the property and the business, and it was a great business. It's been in existence since the 20s. It's a great location, a huge clientele basis. Anyway, we walked into that side of things and their structure wasn't there. We had no service advisor. We had technicians that were answering phones, and it was just a negative atmosphere. And there was a lot of things that were stuck in the past, handwritten repair orders and all sorts of fun stuff. So it changed very rapidly, and it was nice being able to work in the shop for 2 years prior to purchasing, because I got to realize all the pain points of the technicians that I was working with at that time. Being able to look at what they didn't want to do, what they did want to do, how we can make their job easier and allow them to do a better job at what they do. It was a lot of change,
And along the way, a lot of the older staff did not like change. I still remember once one of the guys that was there forever, he's like, if you change out that sink, I'm leaving. It was like the littlest things like that were just like, they just didn't want change at all. So that was a challenge, and they moved on, and we got some great people in, and they're just wonderful individuals, good humans, and that they just want to do a good job. So we've been very blessed to have the staff we do now, but I think it was through attrition, I guess. And, basically just wanting to change the culture, and then the people who wanted to come along for the ride did. It was customer and the employees, and then shop and the business last. So if you put the other two in front of the business, it's always going to work out.
So with these guys pushing back, was there ever a moment where you were like, oh crap, there's no way we're going to be able to work this?
Nah, we like challenges. Look, we overcame. There was never a point where I was worried that someone wouldn't see it. Just based on, it's all about conversation and communication too. If you communicate the reason why and how it's going to benefit them, it works really well. So we got through it.
And so one of your first goals, I remember, for you guys was that, Aaron, one of your first goals and your most major goal was that you wanted to be home and have supper with the family. And so because you were never able to do that really, you had essentially bought this job, and you were, manning the ship, and you were lead technician, and you were service writer, and you were receptionist, and you were porter, and you were bookkeeper, and you were all of this stuff that a lot of these business owners are. And so after a few months, I remember I put a goal in your calendar. And so what we do with clients is we create a calendar, we share a calendar. And so we have events and accountability tasks and things all within that. And so one of the first things I remember I put in there was that a prime rib recipe, like 90 days in. And, so that you were able to go home and, and have that. And so, as we began to move along and you got some structure, once you got that structure, like, how do you think that things change once you began to realize that maybe you should start delegating off some of these tasks in terms of like bookkeeping? And I know that you began to bring in Steph and you were able to delegate some of these tasks off to Steph, and so that you guys could still keep them in-house, but you were able to focus a little bit more on the company, and so I was hoping that maybe you could speak to kind of how the business began to somewhat evolve in that respect as you began to delegate and get some more structure.
Yeah, it definitely took a little bit of time, but once we had people in place to take care of those things, like a service advisor, and defined roles when it came to positions and what people were supposed to do, and had a process that was put in place. I mean, process is such a big thing when it comes to being able to function without one member, right? So like today, for instance, we had a technician call in sick and the shop is still open and I'm at home. So it's not about it's all about the process. I mean, and the fact that we have people in place to take care of things, right? So it's definitely evolved though. I mean, I used to remember having to work until 7, 8 o'clock at night because there were cars that didn't get finished. Because when we purchased, I was the main producer in the shop. And once we pull the main producer out of the shop, we lose productivity and efficiency. And I was stuck up front, which I needed to be up front as well, but I also needed to be overseeing in the back. So I went from working on cars every day to helping technicians work on cars and teaching technicians how to fix cars. And in certain instances, I still have to get my hands dirty, but it's more because I still like to.
So we're all, I think, essentially of the thinking that, if you want the job done right, do it yourself, right? Were you hesitant to kind of pass off some of that responsibility to other people around you, or were you fine with it immediately?
Yeah.
I think that's where the coaching came in, to be honest, where James came in primarily, I think, because we knew we were just I don't want to say blindly following you, but no way, we didn't know what the process really needed to be. And if we know the successful coach is helping us and says, we need this in place because this will make your life easier, we just did it. Honestly, we weren't balking at the idea of, oh, I don't want to change. I think that was the blessing going into it, so into coaching and into just having that growth mindset more so than such a fixed way of looking at things, because we just knew we had to evolve and change. And, we weren't, like I said, kind of stuck in the past, and that we wanted to change because we knew it needed to happen.
Yeah, being able to learn from other people's experiences, that was amazing for us.
Isn't that the point of coaching, right? Like growth without the scars. I stole that quote from somewhere. I've heard that, right? But growth without the scar. And so, coaching, you learn from somebody else's experience. And you guys, I noticed a tremendous amount of growth out of you guys. If you were to watch it on a chart, you always did well, but it seemed like you just got it. Once you just picked up your feet and just kind of were able to get shoved along, and you guys, between the two of you, you were able to really create some incredible systems and some incredible things in your business that created this culture that not only attract staff, but also, have attracted an incredible amount of customers. And so your shop on average is an anomaly, and so I've worked with shops all over the country, and I've said this to you guys privately 100 times. You're an anomaly. You spend not $1 in advertising, and yet regularly you guys are booked up 3 to 4 weeks out. And right now, after a few years of shop ownership, you're essentially trying to kind of follow a similar business plan to what I have done, right? Technician to shop owner. And now you guys are looking at another shop to ultimately purchase. And when a lot of people in our industry are worried about opening another shop or taking on another shop because they're worried about the staffing issues, that is the least of your concerns. And so one of the things that has really set you guys apart is that you guys have this ability to staff your business with some incredible people. They almost gravitate to you, and it's never been an issue for you to find people. And so I was hoping that you could speak a little bit about, some of your community involvement and these things that have helped you build this tremendous culture that you have in your business that has helped you attract not only great customers, but also some really, really incredible employees, because you've hit a home run with all of these people and your ability to onboard and train them.
Yeah, I mean, we have one of our major focuses is our mission statement, and to have everybody on the same page working for a common goal is huge, and it involves the people in the shop. It gives them the ability to make decisions, because they know if it falls within our core values, they can make that decision and run with it. And they're not going to get scolded or reprimanded because, well, it fit this, and this. Those are the criteria. It makes sense for the customer, makes sense for us. We give them the power to make those decisions. And it instills ownership. Yeah, for sure. And everyone who works at downtown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the guys always roll their eyes at me, but I always say it's our shop family. I mean, it really is. We treat them like family. We, if they need something, we're there to help. We'll talk through stuff with them. It's not just an owner and an employee. I don't even like calling them employees, to be honest, because they're more friends, which I know that's a fine line you can run, but it's still a respectful thing on both ends, right? So, but we're, treat them really well, and the customers get treated really well. There's communication all around. We do some things with the community that kind of bring, highlights different local places, local organizations in the city that we kind of help. We have this little coffee fundraiser that we partnered with a local coffee shop with. So it just it highlights different organizations in the city that need some help and could use some funding. So it's kind of fun to do that too. That's more of my fun thing.
Steph, I love how you mentioned that you look at your employees as friends, because this is really how James and I came to be. We had a working relationship at first, and then we both realized that we both love to build businesses. And we were like, all right, so we'll still have a cigar on a Thursday night in his garage. But, when it comes down to helping businesses spread the word, beginning with processes and then eventually to the media, similar story. We know at the end of the day that it is business, but I think it's a great relationship. James, what do you think? I'm afraid to hear the answer.
So I get that is so funny that you brought up like my garage, and so a lot of times the questions that we get all revolve around like, where do you shoot that? Like, are you in somebody's garage? And so yeah, we are. Yeah, so my gym is behind me. I blur the background, but you can see the weights. I got my gym over here. I got one of my cars over there. And if my office wasn't in the gym, I tell you, I would never prioritize enough time to go to the gym. And so between calls, I'll do pull-ups or something. It's hilarious. I love that you brought that up. And it's our cigar room, so everybody comes over, and I always joke that the only way that we could do this podcast is if people would come over, because I don't leave. I'm in front of the computer all day long, so Pat comes over as a meeting, cigar people show up, and we have cigars out here. I think it's so funny, this office. Yeah, it's the great. The neighborhood always laughs at how many people are coming. You're always having meetings in your garage. I'm like, yeah, we do have meetings in my garage all the time. Yeah. So you guys, and so that's very true about you guys, that you look at your staff as family, because, while you guys are really a success story, and you've done very, very well. And we'll get to, some of your accolades as we move along. But, one of the things that, happens sometimes in these coaching relationships is you experience pain points, and it's raw pain. And so sometimes as a coach, you find yourself being a little bit more of a therapist, and you find yourself sitting there through some of these very raw calls about staff, and you allow these people to vent. And so one thing that I can say, without disclosing all of these conversations that we've had through the years, which there haven't been many of them, but, in growing any business, there is frustration. You guys always had this way about you where it was always, and it has, is, and always will be always about employee first. Like, what is always best for him? The behavior is happening right now. We are frustrated by it. How do we get through it? What is the best way? And one of the things that I could really commend you on is your ability to just kind of, even if you're frustrated, vent it, and then just take a step back for a minute and determine what is going to be best long-term. And from, my professional opinion, like, that has been one of your keys to success in managing some of these employees, especially during some trying times when they were going through some of these things, maybe personally or professionally, that maybe went against your grain a little bit, and I think that's incredible, and between that and the community involvement and all of these different things that you've done to build that culture, it's no secret why you guys are as busy as you are, and why you guys are, able to expand at the rate you are, and attract all of these clients and customers. And so I was hoping that maybe you could take a minute and kind of tell us about maybe a unique situation, like a pain point that you guys had somewhat early on, with whether it be defining systems or profitability or whatever. What did you guys think that your biggest pain point was ultimately when you started?
In my opinion, I think it was understanding how my technicians' emotions work, and how to read why they're actually upset and figure out the real reason, not the cause, not the symptom, right? The symptom is the technician is mad about something. Getting mad because he's mad doesn't fix anything. Finding the reason why he's upset, or even the real reason, not the superficial reason, was the answer to keeping the technicians and making them happy. And it's a personal relationship between each one of them. I mean, if you don't have that amount of trust and that amount of confidence in what your technician is doing, or your service advisor, or your receptionist for that matter, you just have to know that you're all on the same page. And communication, oh my gosh, communication is so much of it. There's guys will hold stuff in until it boils over, instead of having a conversation in the very beginning.
I think that was a huge learning curve for you. And I agree. I think that it was probably one of the biggest pain points, is just learning how to work with people.
So that really translates into our lives, right? I mean, how many times, I'm married, how many times, and I've had this conversation with Kim, how many times have you kept something in, right, until it gets to that point that it just explodes? And the part of it is agreeing that, okay, let's not let it get to that point. Let's be honest immediately. If you feel this way right now, spill it. I want to hear it. So that's translated to your business.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason that we're still here too, right? I mean, communication is the reason people stay married. So
and keep employees.
Yeah.
All right.
And so as you guys have moved along, you've done a lot to invest back into your infrastructure. And so you bought a long-standing business, but you also bought some long-standing issues, right? A lack of systems, a lack of accountability in the business. Everybody was kind of going their own way. And aside from that, the infrastructure was a little bit worn as well. And as you guys began to scale up a little bit, it was very necessary for you guys to update that. And so a lot of businesses that we begin to work with, they struggle with that. They struggle with, well, do we need to just update it all right now? I need to go to the bank and get $1 million and go buy all these lifts and all kinds of stuff. And so what you guys did is you had the unique ability and unique foresight to kind of fix some things that were broken, right? But, without sacrificing quality and without sacrificing safety. And then you did a lot of things on cash flow as you began to spin up. And I was hoping maybe you could speak to that for people that, are kind of in that place where they want to go to the bank and just do it all right now, as opposed to doing it with cash flow, keeping cash in hand.
Yeah, that's always a challenge, right? I mean, you see all the things that are not as good as they could be, but in reality, all it takes is actual change, right? If people can see that things are getting better, if the technicians can see that we're putting money back into it, it may not be all at one time, but there's a new hoist now, and there's the new scan tool here, and there's this there over a period of time. As long as they're seeing progress, they're usually very happy.
Well, and as far as cash flow goes, I mean, you don't want to have a bunch of debt either if you can help it. I mean, sometimes it comes with the territory, but not, I'm more of a Ramsey follower than anything. And I always tell the guys too, if they want something, I'm like, well, we'll work towards it and we'll be able to do the improvement. But I want to make sure that business, no matter what, if another pandemic hits, that we're going to be standing. I'm going more for, what's the word I'm looking for? Like job security for everybody. Like, I don't want to, it's our responsibility to take care of the business. And we want to do it well, so it's around forever. So yeah, we have been doing a lot of improvements, but I think early on when we purchased and then the pandemic hit, so we were very acutely aware of, do not get ahead of what you have as far as cash goes. You don't want to have a bunch of loans if you can help it.
Yeah, we went through the pandemic together, right? So like, you guys were still a somewhat new client. You were only around maybe 5 months, 6 months into the program. That's where you start to realize a little bit of movement, a good amount of movement. And then all of a sudden the world actually closed down, and you guys didn't. You guys stayed strong. And not only did you stay strong, you used that as an opportunity to kind of readapt to the new world. That's essentially what this is now after March of 2020. The whole world is totally different. And so how did you guys feel going through that? Like, we've got this new business, we've got all of this new staff, we're starting to make some movement, and all of a sudden, boom, the world closed down. And Steph, you were still really actively involved in the healthcare field. And so you weren't present in the business nearly as much as you wanted to. And so all of this stuff is happening. How'd you feel about that? How'd you feel? How'd you bridge that gap?
You couldn't really think about it. You just had to keep going. Honestly, I mean, you couldn't really dwell on it. It was more of like a fight or flight, like, we're just going to keep moving. And between, the hospital system at that time, that was, not fun. And, it's just one of those things. You just keep plugging away, and you can never have a negative. You can't become negative.
Right.
Like, you can't own a business and be a negative person. It just doesn't work. Like, you always have to be positive, forward thinking. Otherwise you'll get stuck, and then you make bad decisions.
And you have to adapt, right? I mean, we went from having customers that would hang out in the waiting area and people coming in and face-to-face contact and all that fun stuff, which is great. And then the government says, no, you can't do that. And well, good news is you're essential, so you can stay open. But all of our customers, we're in the middle of downtown, so nobody's going to work. So all of our customers decided that they weren't going to come into town. So we adapted, and we ended up with loaner cars and the key drop box and pickup and sanitizing and all the fun stuff that came along with COVID. But if we wouldn't have done that, we wouldn't have made it through. So you have to adapt when things come up.
I love how you put it that way, Steph. I've got a little placard at work, and it says, you never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice.
Right.
Oh,
exactly.
Cool.
Right. I love it.
I got a picture of the cat on the wall there hanging off the branch. Hang in there, buddy. It's almost Friday. It's a little cat just hanging off of the branch.
Yeah. Seen that one.
Yeah. Oh, man. So what kind of advice would you guys give to a shop that's starting out, right? Because typically what I have found through the years, and like any of my onboarding calls with people or any of my vetting calls, is a lot of these shops are all kind of the same carbon copy of the problems that you guys were going through. Either they started a business or they bought a business, and quickly they realized, oh, shoot, I'm really in over my head. This isn't as easy as somebody on Instagram made it look. And so what kind of advice would you give to somebody? It's true. It's so true. And so what kind of advice would you guys give to somebody, that was starting out and they're going through these things and they're ultimately thinking about, hey, maybe I should get another job. Pat, we just talked to somebody in an early on call where we were vetting them last week. And he was like, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to go back and get another job. And we kind of yelled at him. We're like, no, that's not an option.
Do not do that.
Yeah, do not do that. That's a silly thought. Don't think that,
Right.
And so I was hoping maybe you guys could speak to that too. Maybe some words of wisdom, words of advice from people that have done it and made it.
You need your why. Why did you do it in the first place? That's the big thing. Why did you start a business? Why do you want to start a business? You just, if you have a defined why you're doing it, it's a lot easier to get through those hard times and hard things. You'll work through it as long as you keep going back to, this is why I did it and why we're doing it. We're doing it to take care of customers and to take care of employees. It's pretty simple. But if you didn't have that why and you're just doing it for a paycheck, that you'll give up. So I guess have a why and then get a coach.
Surrounding yourself with other people who've either been through it or going through it. Other business owners are a big help. And obviously a coach, because there's challenges every week. And it's really difficult to come up with an answer when you have differing opinions, possibly. A third party is always nice to have some direction through experience.
Direction. I think you pronounced mediation wrong.
There were a few of those times, I do recall.
Right. Well, it's always nice to have objective eyes, right? We all see it through our own glasses. It's always nice to see. You talked about coaching. Would you guys recommend a coach? Have you know anybody? Or
we might know this one guy that helped a bunch.
Right.
Oh man, I'm always I always speak so highly of you guys, and I'm just so proud of everything that you have done. And there were never times in our relationships through the hundreds of hours that we've talked on calls like this that I ever doubted you guys. I definitely saw, Aaron, you're just a brilliant guy, and Steph, you're every bit as smart. And so where one is just a little bit weak, the other one is very strong, and it really is just such a perfect relationship, both personally and professionally. Everything that I've grown to know about you guys through the years, and I'm just very proud of everything that you have done. And I'm very grateful that you guys allowed me to help you and that you trusted me so much, because it's your business, it's your family, it's your employees, it's their families, it's all of that. And, all that we knew of each other is about an hour-long phone call before you guys trusted me with basically your entire financial lives. And, it obviously it worked out because you guys are just such hard workers. And I know so many times through the years you've given me credit and, said that you wouldn't be there without me, but you guys wouldn't be there without your ethics and, without your positive attitudes and without your community involvement and just great positive attitudes. Just everything about you guys is why you are as successful as you are, and I just want to tell you how proud of you that I always am,
Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah. And so as we close out, any tips that you could give to any business owners that are starting out in terms of hiring, right? Hiring is the biggest hot button issue right now. How do we hire? And that has never been a problem for you guys. You always have this pipeline that is built, and, you basically can almost dial up technicians as you need them, and your technicians are incredible. And so as a national average, businesses will have to find about 20 technicians, right, to hire one. And then out of every one that they hire, they got to hire 3 to find one that they retain. And you guys find one and he's a perfect Charlie, right? Charlie's that's your golden boy. Yeah, your unicorn. Yeah, he's incredible, And so I was hoping maybe, as we close out, you could speak to that and give some people some tips on, building that pipeline and the community involvement and building all these relationships around you that have obviously proven to help you guys really bridge this gap that people find is insurmountable, that is ultimately not a fear of yours and helping you to want to go and ultimately purchase another business kind of right down the road and expand your business.
Yeah. It's got a lot to do with hiring within. So that's kind of not the right term, but all of our technicians came from our technicians. So they were referred to us by a technician that was working for us that knew how we operate and cared about what we did. And they knew this person personally. So because technicians hang out with technicians. So they went to school together. They worked together previously, possibly. but having the ability to have your technicians find technicians for you was our biggest method.
Well, that and customers too, like they see the culture when you come in, like you can tell if it's a positive building or if it's not. And, just like from the community, if we at all need somebody, then those customers talk, and usually one person knows a tech somewhere or a really good, personality for an advisor,
Yeah.
somewhere. So it's, I guess, the culture that you create, and then they kind of find you, really. I mean, honestly, it's pretty incredible. Just the networking that happens even when you don't even know about it.
Right.
I love that when you get to the point where your business is impressive to everyone. And I love that you also mentioned how the shop looks. I mean, every single person you come across is a customer, whether it's a tech, whether it's someone getting their car fixed. And James has helped with Precision Auto here in West Springfield. You go to that shop, the bays are clean, the shop is clean, it's a welcoming environment. So, it's beyond just being a great automotive fixer. It's the whole thing.
Mhm.
And they've done
Yeah.
a great job at renovating. We'll get some pictures up. We'll get some pictures up of your facility too. But you guys have done a really great job at renovating not only the office space where everybody walks in and sees, and you have such like a cool old building with like so many cool features. And anybody that owns any type of an old building knows, there's leaks, there's this, there's that. And you guys have gone through and made this building just a perfectly sound, aesthetically pleasing, really functional space, not only for the clients, but also you guys have a whole beautiful office area and kind of a suite there that you guys can have meetings, and you're able to kind of get out of the business a little bit while still being there, and you guys have really done such a tremendous job, definitely far exceeded any expectations that I've had of you. And, and in terms of like financials, you guys have done just a tremendous job. Weekly, you're doing really a strong number. You've continuously done that. You guys continuously put out a very high-end product at a very competitive price in a very competitive market, and you just dominate down there. And and that's because of the people that you are. You attract people to you based on who you are. And I've said it probably 100 times on this call. I'm very proud of you guys. I'm very proud of you guys.
Me
Thank
too,
you.
and I just met you. Aaron and Steph, owners of Downtown Auto in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I do want to throw out your website, downtownautogb.com. You've got some really impressive customers and what they're saying about your business, including people who just happen to be rolling through town and luckily stumbled upon you guys. But downtownautogb.com. If you're in the area, definitely seek out Aaron and Steph. They got a tight operation with a tight staff. They treat their people well, and they've got it down. We appreciate you guys joining us for the Boys Under the Hood podcast.
Thank you
guys so
very
much.
for having